Hey Axis and Allies players, the good captain here. Welcome to a new playthrough of Axis and Allies D-Day. My opponent for this is going to be Ragnell804, and I'm recording this for a few different reasons. Number one, I'm closing in, I feel very strongly on what I think to be the most optimal play for both the Allies and the Germans, and I feel so is Ragnell. So I think this is going to be a game between not quite experts, but people who are closing in on expert of D-Day. So I'm hoping to demonstrate polished play here, and this is all, of course, in preparation for a series of videos that I'll be releasing on this version of Axis and Allies on my primary channel sometime in the next 3 or 4 months. Also, I don't know if you can tell, I have a new piece of hardware. This is a audio microphone that I got for Christmas, so I want to try this out and hopefully make the listening and viewing experience a little more pleasurable. And with that all out of the way, let's get to the game. So, as players of D-Day will know, that the first card is the Para attack, the 6th Airborne hitting Sword Beach, the 101st hitting Utah, and the 82nd hitting the areas behind Utah. All 3 of these attacks fail. No hits are scored, so 9 pips on 9 pips rolled, so it's technically down by 1.5. And then the offshore bombardment is all hurled at Sword Beach, and only 1 hit is scored there. So not doing too well between those 2 arms of attack for the Allies pregame. So here we are going into the air campaign, right? So fighters need to get placed. Bombers and fighters, I guess it doesn't really matter. Technically, the fighters are supposed to deploy first, but okay, so the bombers get done, and they sort of make up for the failings of the naval bombardment in Paris because both make hits. So the first one is over here at Juno Beach. The bomber targets the blockhouse and picks it off. And then over here in G12, the bomber targets the tank and picks it off as well. Okay. The fighters get laid out. It's a standard Allied blanket. This is a very stock opening move. I don't think there's a better one. You essentially blanket the entire southern edge and eastern edge of German reinforcements, putting 2 fighters in Rouen because there's an actual German AA gun there, so even if one gets shot down, you still have it covered. The last fighter covering Sword Beach, one of the more vulnerable areas to a German counterattack on Allied 1. So this goes well. The AA gun misses. This goes well for the Allies, I should say. The AA gun misses. And that's it. We go to blockhouses. Now, the Germans start with 11 what I call red arrow blockhouses. Red arrow blockhouses being the ones that actually shoot out onto the water. And between the naval gunfire and the bombers, which should all be targeting blockhouses in my opinion, the most reasonable expectation is to have 8 left over. So you lose 2 from naval gunfire, you lose 1 from the bombers, 11 minus 3 is 8. And if we're using low luck logic here, then those 8 blockhouses would get 4 hits on the Allied forces out on the water. So the Germans go into this thing with 9, and they end up doing only 3 hits, so net negative 1.5. So the 3 tossed out on Utah Beach knock off the American artillery. The 2 shot out over Omaha Beach miss. And then the pair of blockhouses on Gold and Sword each knock out the British armor. This is all very common stuff. British usually landing with 1 tank, 1 armor out of those 3. Okay. So then we get to the beachhead fighting. And the first battle is Utah Beach. The Allies roll 6 infantry and miss. Now, low luck, I'll be doing a video on the main channel about the horror and poison that is low luck, but low luck would tell you that they should get 1 kill. The reality is there's only a 65% chance that 6 infantry get a kill, so really not totally shocking that this would be a miss here, and the Germans pick up a kill on the return fire. In the 82nd Airborne sector, the Allies pick up a kill, as do the Germans, so we're just trading pieces there. In G15, which is the Gold Beach, the Allies pick up 2 kills, I should say, and the Germans hit one back. And then in the densely populated Omaha Beach, the Allies get 2 kills and the Germans get 3. None of this is too shocking so far. The British at Sword Beach pick up only 1 kill, but this is not going to matter. This last German hanging up the Sword Beach hex will be eliminated unless we throw in German reinforcements, which we're not going to do, and I'll get to in a moment. And the Germans peace swap essentially there. And finally, the Allies clean out Juno Beach. But this is one reason I don't like targeting the blockhouse on Juno Beach with anything. And that's because this is an overkill situation. The Allies actually scored 2 hits here when there was only 1 German piece. So that second kill is wasted, essentially. There's nothing to hit there. Now, you could argue that the Allies have a freed up zone, but given that the Germans have to counterattack on their turn anyway, it was highly likely that anything that survived would be destroyed. Juno Beach, very secure zone for the Allies to clear on turn 1. So that's why I do not like to target that blockhouse. The argument to target that blockhouse is, of course, if you destroy it, guaranteed to have at least that 1 British tank land. There's only 1 red arrow blockhouse that reaches out onto Juno Beach, but not my preference. Okay, so now we move to the German side of this turn. Now, I already have stared at this long enough to figure out what I want to do. So let me preface this by saying that I do believe pretty strongly at this point that the best German strategy is one where you do not attack or do anything other than force preservation until about turn 7. There's some rare exceptions, and there's quite a few on this first turn, so I'm going to violate this general rule that I have for playing the Germans, but that's only due to the fact that the opportunity has to be really juicy. And I see some opportunities here that I really can't shy away from. And that brings us to the German turn. So the first thing we do is push the pieces that are in zones with Allied units into the combat zone, so we can just see where mandatory attacks are going to be made. Okay, with the most obvious things out of the way, let's go with strategy. Now, one thing I like to do that I kind of settled on advocating for is just putting 8 pieces in Cherbourg. That's the maximum unit limit for each of these zones. We want to make the Americans pay the Cherbourg tax, which usually is at least 10 and probably up to 12 pieces to be safe. But yeah, so as the German player, we're just going to kind of push these pieces in. I'm going to hold off on these 2. So we kind of walk towards Cherbourg, and I'm actually going to send an AA gun out here to kind of help bring that infantry in. And I'm going to bring this pair here. So now every territory has an AA gun, and we're all going to be one big happy family, one big 8-piece happy family in Cherbourg on the following turn. The infantry piece that is here now, I'm going to send in a counterattack along with this armor against the 82nd. This fellow will come here. And I'm doing this for a pretty specific reason, and that's I'm going to coordinate my counterattack, or a counterattack here on Utah Beach as well. Now, normally I would never advocate for the counterattacks like this with the German player, but I'm going to hopefully get something for this because I know the percentage of 5 pieces getting 3 kills, and that's 21%. So I'm placing what I think is a reasonable bet that the Americans don't kill all 3 pieces on the first turn, and this would prevent their reinforcement of the 82nd for turn 2. Also, I'm kind of putting meat shields in front of this pillbox, and this is a red arrow pillbox, which has a higher value than other pieces, other German pieces, because of that blockhouse card. And we know that the Americans are forced to put those first 4 pieces on Utah Beach, so that makes sense to me in this case. We're also going to counterattack in Omaha Beach with everything we can here. 4, 5, 6, 7. This is actually not busting the piece count limit because pillboxes or blockhouses are exempt from that, so a good strong counterattack here. The only reason I'm doing this is almost for the exact same reason I did it in the Utah Beach as well. We are going to bring an armor from Caen into Gold Beach, and we have the exact same math. I'm putting a bet that on 79% of the time, this battle does not result in the elimination of all 3 German pieces. This would close the door on the Allies being able to reinforce Omaha Beach at all, given that, again, we know that the Americans can only reinforce Utah Beach on their first turn, meaning that Omaha is left on its own. So we bring in overwhelming forces, we pin the units in Gold Beach as best we can, and Khan really just kind of cocoons. And yeah, we don't want to feed any dice really whatsoever that we can, especially so early in the game. So we're going to avoid strafes and not move. So these 3 pieces will stay here, and these 2 pieces will stay here. So that's it. That's everything, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so next turn, unless we're molested by air, we're going to have 8 pieces in Cherbourg. We have a kind of a sloppy counterattack against the 82nd, and we have these 2, a good counterattack in Omaha, and these 2 Vegas bets on Gold and on Utah, but they're not insane. The stats are in our favor, but we're also not going to whine if one or both of them goes upside down, because again, 21% happens all the time, right? That's 1 in 5 games. Okay, let's get to rolling. So first we will do the battle. Let's do the 82nd first. Okay, we pick up our kill, and the Americans waffled that. So we are finished with that battle. And now we go to Utah Beach. That's 11. So again, we're okay with them getting 1 or 2 hits. Okay, that's fine. Yes, we'll lose the infantry. We weren't really worried about getting kills. The main thing was freezing them and surviving the pillbox. So we accomplished that goal, and the 82nd will certainly be cleared out next turn. Okay, let's continue with Omaha Beach, A14. Okay, we get, I think that was, 17 pips, so that was the most likely outcome. So that strips the American infantry, and we'll take 1 or 2 kills. Oof. Poor Allies got nothing. But still, it might not. One thing that can help here is if the Allies pick up that 21% and clear Gold Beach. But let's see what happens. I stacked it. Let's see. Wow. The Germans picked up 2 kills. Oh, they cleared it. They cleared it. So Gold Beach will be able to reinforce Omaha. I don't know if they'll want to, but that also means this Juno tank armor, the Juno armor, can make it too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They could bring in 6. So, okay. Well, 21% happens, and then finally A17. This is just a slop, really. Just find out if the pillbox gets the kill or not, and that's that. Okay. German non-combat move. This is really just to bring back the pieces. So yeah, some successes, some failures. And now let's do the dice report. Quick pause. Okay, before going into the strafe rolls for the Allies, which, whatever German reinforcement rolls are rolled, means a strafe roll for the Allies, but looks like the Allies are at negative 2.33 and the Germans rolled a perfect 0. So this game so far is 2 1/3 points in favor of the Germans, but only because the Allies missed 2 1/3 of their kills. Okay, so my opponent has rolled his Allied 1 reinforcements, and the American roll is just a go, no go. Did the Americans get at least 4 pieces or roll at least a 4 or better or not? And they did, so the 4 infantry pieces will enter Utah. Big whoop. Nothing surprising or interesting there. The main thing on the first turn for the Allies is what did the British roll? And in this case, they rolled a 3, which is an awful roll. Essentially a -4, given that the most likely roll with 2 dice is 7. So we're going to call that a -4 for the Allies on the first turn. And then the Germans rolled, and they rolled a 7 for the Rhine side. That's the left side of the map if you're standing behind the board on the German side. And on the Rhine side, we rolled a 4, which is a -3 net for the Germans. No real comments here other than to say that if you're going to roll low as the Allies, you definitely want to roll low as the British. The British have no problem getting all their reinforcements on in a game, and they are adjacent to one of the victory cities when they land. So it's not as critical. The thing that is extremely painful is any roll that is that low for the Americans after the first turn. And the Americans have many more pieces than the British, and it's actually quite difficult to get them all involved, especially this final bracket of artillery and armor. You want these pieces, it would be really nice if you could get these on as early as possible, but it can be very difficult to get them in the fight, and they're quite powerful. So the Germans, a bad or a good roll doesn't really matter, especially with the strategy I employ, which is, I think the better one is to just stack up, preserve your armies, and do some anti-aircraft gun work, which we're going to talk about here right now. The Germans rolled 7 for the Rhine side, which is that top bracket here, and then just the 4 tanks on the Rouen side, which is the right-hand column here. So we have a total of 7 armor and 1 AA gun and 3 infantry. So I am going to put 6 armor and 1 AA gun in Chartres left. That way it takes advantage of the 2 movement factors that we have for the armor. And it also starts an AA wall. I only put in 7 pieces here because I don't want to max it out. If the Allies decide to put fighters over this territory, I want them to pay at least 1 die in terms of the AA gun tax. But I don't want to max it out because that would force me to have to push a piece out if I wanted to put a second AA gun in next turn, pending the survival of all the units. So assuming they all survive, I don't want to have 8 units, but 7's okay. That way I can at least put 1 AA gun in next turn, even if the Allies put a fighter over to try to deter any reinforcements into Chartres left. And then everything else just piles into Rheims. It's adjacent to St. Lo, so I think that's being the best we can be as the Germans. So the way we do this in AAA is we're just going to, as you've already seen, I've edited down the reinforcement pools for both sides and then edited them in adjacent to the zone I want to move in. So we never left the non-combat movement phase. And I'm just going to move these pieces in. The dice server is on, so this is a real move. We lost 1 armor in Chartres, and we lost no pieces here. So by low luck, a logic, that's a negative 0.83, bringing the total allied net to negative 3.16 allies, negative 3.83 allies if you discard that excessive kill. So not a great beginning for the Allies. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and track this as we go through the game. So we have negative 3.83 modified for the Allies, plus 0 for the Germans in terms of dice, negative 4 Allies in terms of reinforcements, and negative 3 German for reinforcements. So there we go. We'll just kind of keep an eye on that as we go through the game. Okay, so that's it. We'll click done. And now we're at the top of Allied 2. I'll send this back to my opponent. Thanks for watching this. All the best from the good captain, and bye-bye.